The vlog part. The vlog part. The vlog part. The vlog part. Dev. Vlog. Part. 1. Huh? Oh, much better. Devlog part 1. Anyway, in the last devlog we already did a game design document, and today we are going to continue our game by making a Celeste-like movement, and more specifically we are going to make a Celeste-like scene transitions. If you're wondering why Celeste, then you definitely should check out the previous devlog right here. My name is AtymTIma and let's begin. As it seems to me, there are 3 fundamental elements to consider in the Celeste level transitions: shift between levels, aka camera movement, connections between game scenes, and respawn of the character in the same scene. Let's start with the shift between levels. As all the other games, Celeste splits the entire map into different levels that remain inactive until you reach them. This division helps to increase the performance and maintainability of the game, as well as deal with much less objects when the level is reloaded. However, to make the transition between scenes smooth and unnoticeable, there should be no freezes and frame drops when changing between scenes. It's quite easy to achieve in Unity with the help of additive scenes. I made a level manager object for each scene that collects the data about its neighboring scenes. So, when the current level is loaded, it also additively loads the next levels where the player possibly might go to. The difference is that these scenes already exist but remain inactive, and all I need to do is to make them active once I enter the door and unload the previous scenes. To achieve the quick camera transition, I decided to turn my camera into a singleton. This way, the main camera will fly towards the position of the original camera, which is going to be destroyed and replaced with the main global camera. However, my initial mistake was that I also wanted to change the position of the character. Only when I started coding this behavior, I realized how stupid I am. Because basically, the character moves to the opposite side of the screen because of the camera, not the character himself. The next issues I encountered were related to the fact that once the next level is loaded, I have 2 main characters at the same time being active. It meant that A, the movement of the new character wasn't blocked and I could break the game by killing him instantly. B, new characters' collisions with surroundings caused the original toilet roll to go insane. And C, there is no C, except the fact that you could see 2 characters at the same time for a split of a second. And essentially, I fixed this by creating a game manager that collects the state of the game. So, when the roll collides with the door, the state changes to the transition state. Then, the next level becomes active, but the new toilet roll is disabled, because in the wake function it disables itself if the current state is transition. Therefore, once the old character reaches the position where it should be, the new role becomes enabled, while the old one becomes destroyed. In Celeste, the entire input and movement is frozen between scene transition to ensure that nothing will be broken. I decided to do the same, and now the controls become available only when the camera finishes the transition. By the way, I remade this level to teach the player several mechanics at the same time. That A, paper restores the number of turns, B, the number of moves is limited, and C, collecting poop increases the number of moves. If you want to see more new levels or even offer your own ideas, make sure to subscribe to our family-friendly community and leave your suggestions in the comments. It really means a lot to me. Moving on! The last mistake with the transition was the unloading of the previous level. Well, more specifically, it didn't unload it at all. As I learned from the almighty Google, it's a common problem when using additive scenes, but the fix was actually not that hard. I attached all the game objects in the hierarchy, except singletons, to the root game object. It means that during the unloading, I just need to destroy the root object and everything will be gone. The level transition was completed. The second crucial element is level connection. In Celeste, there are levels where you can return back to explore more, and also the levels where you can go back. In the case of my game, there is no point in going back, because role control is going to be a puzzle game, and making double puzzle levels that work in the reverse directions is way too much to handle for me, to be honest. It means I always need to block the path to the previous scene. And if I need to return back to the initial level, I can make several additional levels that lead to the initial scene, but from another location. Obviously, I could simply replace the passage with the walls and doors, but it lacks the visual feedback. That's why I opened the Photoshop file I previously made for the animation of the collision with the wall, removed the layer with the background, and cut the animation, leaving the part where the door closes down. The next step was audio feedback. Since I made digital sounds in the previous video, you can watch it here. I decided to make the natural sounds this time. And this is me, trying to come up with the sound of dust and the closing door. And that's the result. The problem was that the player immediately collided with this door, which then activated the death animation with the toilet flush. To fix that, I disabled the collider of the door and then made a child object for the door that has its own box collider. This child object is always one cell away from the door. Now, once the character collides with the child object, it activates the initial main collider that acts as a part of the wall and prevents from returning back to the previous level. The last fundamental element is the respawn in the same scene. As many other games, Celeste uses a bunch of dark animations that cover the screen when you die and uncover when you respawn. Together, both animations create the illusion of the smooth respawn. To fit the style of my game, I decided to replace the dark transition with the wave. For now, it looks like that. And by the way, I reduced the amount of work necessary for the art by drawing the fill-in animation only. Basically, I used the same sprites for the fill-out animation, but I just put them in reverse and also mirrored all the images so that the fill-in and fill-out animations look differently. I was stuck at this point because I had a strange bug that occurred between both animations. First of all, the entire wave disappeared for a single frame, and second of all, the weird flickering was appearing before the fill-in animation was started.
Many hours later,
I finally found out the source of the problem. It was the empty frame in one of my animations where nothing was happening. Okay, I wanted to finish right here, but then I got extremely infuriated because of how stupid the flash animation looks if you collide with the wall in the middle of two cells. There are many ways how it can be solved. For example, I may remove the grid for the wall and then activate.
However,
I managed to solve this problem by comparing the distance between the player and the nearest cell of the wall, and then shifting the character towards this nearest cell. This function simply rounds all the necessary positions to the nearest integers and compares the results between character and the grid cell. So now the death animation with the flash always works as intended. If you liked the video, click the like button because it helps us to grow, subscribe to the channel to join our family-friendly community, and don't forget to check out all the other videos. Bye!